Now, in a few minutes from now, the Indian Space Research Organisation will be launching its smallest commercial rocket satellite launch vehicle. The vehicle will also leave the Earth's surface to put 2 satellites into its orbit, marking India's presence in the small satellite launch market. The 34-meter small satellite launch vehicle is capable of carrying payloads of up to 500 kilograms and put them in an orbit that is said to be about 500 kilometers above the Earth's surface. The SSLV D1 will soar into the skies roughly at about 9:18 a.m. in just a few minutes from now from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in the southeastern state of Andhra Pradesh. It will place into orbit the 145-kilogram Earth Observation 2 satellite and also Azadi Sat. But what makes this launch very interesting is the fact that Azadi Sat is designed by students, mostly girls, from government schools across the country. These are live visuals that we are getting from the center, where you can see the many scientists and the many engineers, the people involved in the planning of the launch, watching and looking at various aspects of the preparation that have been underway. In just a few minutes from now, we are given to understand that the rocket will in fact take off from the Sriharikota Space Center.
यहाँ जो दर्शकगण आए हुए हैं लॉन्च को देखने के लिए, उन्हें थोड़ी दिक्कत हो सकती है। लेकिन प्रमोशन के लिए पूरी तरह अनुकूल है। -1 मिनट। डिस्ट्रक्ट साहब अब हम 1 मिनट की दूरी पर प्रमोशन से -50 seconds. All sequences armed. -45 seconds. -40 seconds. -35 seconds. -30 seconds. Real-time programs activated. -25 seconds. -20 seconds. -15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Plus 5 seconds. Stop normal. P1 tracking. PT tracking. R2 tracking. P2 tracking.
That was a brilliant lift-off, a sight to behold.
प्रज्वलन और सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन SSLV D1 लॉन्च व्हीकल का। SSLV D1 EOS-2 मिशन अपने गंतव्य की ओर। सभी तंत्र सुचारू रूप से काम करते हुए बहुत ही रोमांच का पल है ये। प्रथम प्रमोशन SSLV D1 का।
Maiden launch of SSLV. The performance of first stage is as per the prediction.
First stage performance normal. SHAR-1 as in main auto. Plus 1 minute.
प्रथम चरण सामान्य निष्पादन करता हुआ।
SHAR-2 as in main auto.
वैज्ञानिक गण निरंतर नजर बनाए हुए हैं सभी आंकड़ों पर।
Flight parameters and ground trace on your screens right now. Shar, Bangalore and Trivandrum telemetry stations tracking.
प्रथम चरण का प्रज्वलन काल करीब 117 सेकंड का होगा।
This 22.5 meter long stage is powered by HTPB based solid propellant, 87 tons mass. It generates a thrust of 2600 kilonewtons. During the SS1 action time of 117 seconds, the altitude of the launch vehicle crosses about 85 kilometers.
प्रथम चरण के सभी तंत्र सामान्य कार्य करते हुए
Second stage
ignited, first stage separated.
अभी अभी आपने सुना रेंज निदेशक ने घोषणा की द्वितीय चरण का प्रज्वलन हो चुका है तथा प्रथम चरण को पृथक कर दिया गया है.
As per the announcement of the Range Operations Director, the second stage has started its operation, generating maximum vacuum thrust of 235 kilonewtons.
द्वितीय चरण का प्रज्वलन काल करीब 221 सेकंड का. ऊष्मा कवच को पृथक कर दिया गया है.
Trivandrum and Port Blair stations presently tracking.
Plus 3 minutes.
अब हम 170 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई पर आ चुके हैं.
There is a quick succession of several flight events. The SS1 separation, following the SS2 ignition.
Second stage performance normal.
And then the closed interstate separation, initiation of closed loop guidance for the flight, and of course, the dense atmosphere and 100 kilometers altitude has been crossed. The payload fairing also has been separated.
यान की गति 3.35 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड तथा ऊंचाई 228 किलोमीटर.
Plus 4 minutes.
इस घटनाक्रम में SS2 का प्रज्वलन काल खत्म होने के बाद करीब 90 सेकंड का कोस्ट फेज होगा.
Second stage action completed.
Current altitude is 260 kilometers.
Hosting.
4 minutes 30 seconds past the launch time.
इसे SS2 SS3 कंबाइंड कोस्टिंग फेज कहा जाता है. इस घटनाक्रम में अगली घटना होगी SS2 का पृथक्करण तथा SS3 का प्रज्वलन.
Vehicle performance normal.
यान पूरी तरह सामान्य प्रदर्शन करता हुआ और अपनी उद्दिष्ट कक्षा की ओर बढ़ता हुआ.
Next flight event is the separation of the second stage, which has completed its operation.
Second stage separated.
Now we have got the confirmation that the second stage has been separated.
Third stage ignited.
जी हाँ, द्वितीय चरण अपना प्रज्वलन काल तथा कोस्ट फेज पूर्ण करने के पश्चात पृथक कर दिया गया है तथा तृतीय चरण SS3 प्रज्वलित हो चुका है.
Right now the SSLV is in its third stage regime. The carbon fiber filament wound case with 4.5 tons of HTPB based solid propellant loading, SS3 will propel the rocket from 333.6 kilometers to 356.5 kilometers. A significant delta V addition takes place. It is about 3.7 kilometers per second. That's the amount of velocity increase.
SS3 का प्रज्वलन काल 112 सेकंड का होगा. इस दौरान यह निर्वात प्रणोद 160 किलोन्यूटन का उत्पन्न करेगा.
Third stage performance normal.
इस चरण के दौरान ही कक्षीय स्थितियां प्राप्त की जा सकेंगी.
Plus 7 minutes.
Singapore and Port Blair stations still tracking. The action time for third stage is 112 seconds, after which there will be a combined coast phase.
Third stage action completed.
तृतीय चरण अपना प्रज्वलन कार्य पूर्ण करता हुआ।
Vehicle is in coasting.
Presently, it's the regime of coasting. The third stage has completed its operation, but yet to separate from the ongoing launch vehicle. Control for pitch, yaw and roll being provided by the velocity trimming module thrusters. In about 3 minutes of coasting, there is a triple velocity addition and triple altitude gain. VTM will then operate and compensate for the velocity necessary for the injection of satellites and also the correct altitude.
भारत इस साल को आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव की तरह मना रहा है। भारत के स्वतंत्रता के 75वें वर्षगांठ में पूरे भारत में तरह तरह से इसे मनाया जा रहा है। इसमें सभी ओर विकास और उन्नति की दिशा को दिखाया जा रहा है। यह पर्व इसरो में भी मनाया जा रहा है। इसी उद्देश्य के साथ मिशन न सिर्फ एक नवीन प्रमोशन यान का प्रदर्शक है, बल्कि मिशन के उपग्रह आजादी सेट पर आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव को समर्पित हैं।
We are 9 minutes past the launch time. Combined coasting in progress right now.
यह मिशन एक और कारण से महत्वपूर्ण है। इस यान में सफर कर रहे आजादी सेट को हमारे देश के ही 750 स्कूली छात्राओं ने मिलकर बनाया है। इस तरह यह मिशन महिलाओं को प्रोत्साहित करते हुए वुमेन इन स्पेस के थीम को भी सहायक बन रहा है। VTM वेलोसिटी ट्रिमिंग मॉड्यूल वह टर्मिनल चरण है जो कि अंतःक्षेपण की पूरी स्थितियां प्राप्त करेगा।
Plus 10 minutes.
You are watching us live from the Mission Control Center here at Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. This is a maiden launch of SSLV D1 EOS-03 mission.
अभी आप ऑन बोर्ड कैमरा की मदद से देख पा रहे हैं EOS-2 का पृथकीकरण तथा अंतःक्षेपण उसके उद्दिष्ट कक्षा में। VTM का कार्य पूर्ण हो चुका है और इसे बंद किया जा चुका है।
So these are live visuals that are being beamed straight from the site where the satellite has been launched. Remember, this is a small satellite launch vehicle that caters to the launch of up to 500 kilograms of satellites to low Earth orbits or on launch on demand basis. The first developmental flight that the SSLV D1, or what is also known as the EOS-02 mission, has in fact happened today. The rocket lifted off at 9:18 a.m. this morning, Indian Standard Time.
Following the combined coast phase, the VTM ignition cutoff and EOS-02 separation, Azadi Sat separation, these flight events have taken place.
जी हाँ, इसकी पुष्टि कर दी गई है। EOS-2 तथा आजादी सैट को उनके उद्देश्य कक्षा में स्थापित कर दिया गया है।
So the mission is a success. The satellites that were launched by the rocket have been put into their orbits. This of course is yet another achievement by ISRO, where these are small scale satellites, and this is said to be a program that puts India into the race for launching satellites on demand. It can launch up to 500 kilograms of satellites into what are described as low Earth orbits on a launch on demand basis. The first of the developmental flight has been accomplished this morning, and these are scenes of celebration at the Space Launch Center. And two satellites, we're given to understand, have now been put into orbit by the rocket that just took off from the space station in Sriharikota exactly at 9:18 this morning. And my colleague Siddharth is joining us from the center where the rocket was in fact launched. Good morning to you, Siddharth. This is yet another feather in the cap of ISRO. The rocket launched successfully, and the two satellites we're now given to understand have been successfully placed into the orbit.
Yeah, absolutely, Saleh. As you rightly pointed out, in fact, this is a successful launch, and it's actually the beginning of the new era of commercial spaceflight from India, because as we already know, there are three operational rockets in India. That is the PSLV series of rockets, which is, of course, one rocket, and besides that, we also have the GSLV series, which is GSLV Mark II and Mark III. But these are all rockets that were designed about 2 or 3 decades ago, and these are launch vehicles meant for, medium lift capacity. But the SSLV is a market-centric and Indian industry-centric rocket, because it's something that can be assembled in almost like a week. It's comparable to use layman's terms. If the PSLV and GSLV rockets are more like sedans and SUVs, the SSLV is more like a hatchback. It's something that's meant to get the job done, but it's also meant to get the job done at low cost. And it's also a rocket that can be assembled in about 1 week. It can be deployed very easily. And it's also a rocket that's meant for customers, foreign customers and Indian customers, to provide them low-cost launch services.
I think that's an incredible achievement there, Siddharth, because what this rocket now effectively does is it actually broadens the market for a lot more commercial customers. How big is this market? And this is something that now makes ISRO position itself as an agency that can actually put these small-scale satellites into space virtually within a span of a week, if that is what is needed.
Absolutely. So you were talking about the market. So in fact, this is a huge market. We are talking about nearly $500 billion. We are talking about $470 billion to be particular, because that's the size of the global space economy. And at this point of time, statistics clearly say that India has less than 2% share of the $470 billion extremely lucrative launch market globally, or rather the space economy globally. So India obviously is looking to increase its share in this very lucrative business because of the fact that we have the capability, we have all the wherewithal that it takes to do it from India, do it with the help of Indian government, do it with the help of Indian agencies. So with this kind of capability that we have, it is only natural that we step up our game and, take more steps like SSLV and extra steps to ensure that we attract more customers, whether domestic customers or whether foreign customers, to ensure that India can earn larger chunks of foreign revenue, which will help not just fund our space program, but which also contributes to the larger national cost.
Absolutely, indeed. And it is the Indian scientists who are the forefront of this, and they are the ones who are putting India on the map of this space commercial economy that we're talking about. It is $500 billion, as you pointed out, but this is still a very nascent market. It has been around for less than perhaps a decade, where these private, commercial, small-scale satellites are being put into space. And also the fact, Siddharth, that we can actually do it very economically, at a rate that is way cheaper than what the Americans or the Europeans or the other space agencies can do. This will position India really well in attracting customers from around the world.
See, in fact, when we look at the comparisons between India and foreign agencies, the comparisons are often not too fair because of the fact that India did not have a head start in rocketry, because most of the countries that took part in World War I and World War II were the ones that had a head start in rocketry, and they are the pioneers even today. India actually began in a very humble manner from a beachside church. It was a ramshackle church where our space program began, and we began with a very humble means, and our idea was to meet our country's needs to ensure that rocketry and outer space can help our citizens. That's how our space program began. So naturally, as an offshoot of that, we've today scaled up capacity so much that we are not just able to fulfill national needs, but we are also able to cater to needs of international customers while bringing India the much needed revenue.
Absolutely, indeed, Siddharth. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us all those updates. This of course, is the big story of the moment, where India is now, the ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, has in fact put in place into orbit 2 satellites that were launched. These were these small satellites. And remember, this is a new satellite launch vehicle that India has, of course, come up with, that will cater to the launch of payloads of up to 500 kilograms. And this can launch satellites on a launch-on-demand basis, where the rocket can, of course, be assembled in less than a span of a week. And it also is a very commercially viable rocket, which can be used by various private commercial entities who want to get satellites up into a space orbit, and they can do this pretty quickly. And this is what has been accomplished. This is a commercial rocket that is meant for the small-scale rockets to the weight of almost about 500 kilograms, which can, of course, be put in space. Now, the Indian space program is a success story like no other, and over the last 60+ years, India has developed indigenous rockets and satellites all from scratch. And today, India has, of course, taken another leap by launching a new rocket, the SSLV. So what really is this new spacecraft? Our correspondent Siddharth MP gets you all the details.
2, 1, 0, +1.
India is one of the leading space powers in the world. With homegrown technologies, the nation has mastered the art of creating reliable and cost-effective rockets. They have reached Moon and Mars successfully, besides placing numerous satellites in Earth's orbit. There are 3 rockets in the mainstay of India's space program: Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle (PSLV), Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle (GSLV), and GSLV Mark III. The GSLV Mark III rocket is now being modified to take Indian astronauts to space. ISRO has also successfully placed over 340 foreign satellites of 36 countries in the space, and in the process earning millions of dollars in revenue. But here's the thing. The global space economy is valued at nearly $470 billion. India's share in this is less than 2%. While India does have capability, there is much more that can be done in terms of commercial activities, and that's where the new SLV rocket comes in.
Basically, we want to develop a rocket that can be built and operated by industries without having too much of complexity. The rockets, they are complex machines. So if you want to make it realize this hardware in industry and assemble it and test it and fly, it requires all the skills and expertise a lot of people. So in the current scenario, if you want to develop such a thing, we looked at the rocket in a way, it will be significantly simpler than the current fleet of rockets. So SSLV is in that way much simpler rocket. And second aspect is manufacturing point of view. We can do it in smaller industries. We don't need huge complex manufacturing setup to make that rocket.
So let's now try to understand how the new spacecraft compares with its predecessor PSLV. SSLV stands for Small Satellite Launch Vehicle. It is India's smallest rocket and is barely 34 meters tall and 2 meters wide. It is low cost and can even be assembled in a week, unlike PSLV, which takes around 2 months. This means the SSLV can be manufactured in large numbers and can be launched on demand. However, the much sleeker SSLV rocket can lift only 500 kilograms to low Earth orbits. Many are seeing this launch as a tribute to mark the 75th anniversary of independence.
This rocket is aimed at customers who want to launch small satellites that weigh below 500 kgs. This means that the target audience is mostly the academia, the startups, and also some established firms that want to launch constellations of very small satellites. ISRO also believes that this is a rocket that is made in such a manner that it is so simple in engineering that an Indian private industry can 100% make this rocket when it is outsourced to them. From Chennai, this is Siddharth MP, WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.